Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to Keeping Fish Simple. So in today's video, we're going to be doing the top 7 worst beginner fish out there. These are like fish that should not be recommended to anyone, and this is going to be basically a beware to all beginners for all of these fish, because I remember my first trip into the pet store. It was a big chain pet store. I remember looking around, seeing lots of cool, cute stuff, but not being aware to the problems that could occur if I bought those fish. So luckily I didn't. I actually did buy one of the fish on this list, but it wasn't too detrimental. So there's going to be a couple of controversial things on this list, so if you're into controversy and you don't get upset about this, I'd probably click away, because these are just going to be the things that I picked up from keeping fish over the last 7 years, and just some little pieces of knowledge that I would have liked to know, and a lot of things that's going to save a lot of people and a lot of fish's lives over the long term. So make sure you stay around to the end of the video if you're into that stuff. Without any further ado, let's get started. So number 7 on my list is going to be angelfish. Now, this might be kind of like shooting myself in the foot here, because I keep a lot of angelfish. In fact, I breed tons of angelfish. I sell them on my website down below. Angelfish, I've had tons of success with. They are a very, very easy fish to take care of. Now, the only reason I put them at number 7 is because they are aggressive. These guys are little shits, and once they get really big, they are like most cichlids, and they can become quite aggressive. So especially once they get to that pairing off age, they can cause a lot of problems in an aquarium. So there's a lot of things you can do to mitigate this, which is you can keep dithers. There's a video up in the top corner where you can watch that. I've got a lot of dither fish that I recommend. What I've noticed is with people that buy angelfish, first up they'll add like one angelfish to an aquarium with like just guppies or some other fish, and then what happens is they just end up bullying them, and then they have nothing to do with this huge angelfish and they have to give it away or something like that, which is a problem for beginners. So that's why I don't recommend them. They are very hardy. Like as a beginner, they're a pretty good fish, but I get them second. Like, so if I was going to set up a second tank, I'd get them. I'd try like a beginner fish first, like a super easy fish to take care of, and then I'd go for these guys. Nonetheless, I mean, they are a good beginner fish, you can't deny it. It's just the problem is with the aggression and the size. These guys get quite big. A lot of people don't expect it, so they can be put in like a 10-gallon tank, and then over time, like very quickly, they become too small for that tank, and then it's not a good life for the fish. So for that reason, angelfish are at number 7. And then number 6 on my list is going to be gouramis. Now, in my personal experience, I haven't had a lot of time with gouramis. I actually never kept them, but I've never kept them because they are so aggressive. So honey gouramis in particular, I've heard can be very aggressive, and they're a beginner fish. They're at every fish store that I've been to. They're a common pick because they're beautiful. They've got like all the beautiful colors and stuff like that, but these guys can actually bully fish so much that they end up killing them. So they're an easy fish to take care of from what I've heard. I mean, I can't say firsthand, I'm not gonna lie, I've never kept them. So they can be very aggressive, and for that reason, they're pretty much the same as the angelfish. I would just highly recommend not keeping them unless you're gonna try and like keep one with like by itself or something like that. So be careful, don't add them to your community aquarium without some research and trying to figure out what's gonna be a good mix for that fish in that aquarium. So for that reason, these guys are number 6. Be careful. Now, number 5 on my list is gonna be bala sharks. Now, I've never kept bala sharks because I'm not big into monster fish, but the idea of a freshwater shark sounds very enticing to beginners. Now, like everyone wants to keep sharks, everyone like that I tell I keep fish to is like, oh, do you have a shark? No, I don't have a shark, because these guys are very small and cute when you like have a look at them in the fish store and you're like, oh cool, that's a shark. But these guys get big, and they're like a big no-no to any beginner. You gotta be really careful with what you're doing. These guys belong in huge aquariums, at least 4 feet I'd think, and a lot of the time a beginner's gonna have like a 5-gallon or a 10-gallon, and that's just not gonna be good enough for a bala shark. So stay away from these guys. They're gonna cause you a lot of problems unless you know exactly what you're doing, so do a lot of research before you get them. Yeah, just bala sharks, stay away from them. Number 4 is gonna be a pretty obvious one, and this is gonna be Oscars. Oscars, when they're in fish stores, especially, your chain stores, they're very small. And I won't lie, they look so cute. I was so close to buying an Oscar when I first went to go get fish. And I'm so glad I didn't. It was a cute little albino Oscar. I can still remember it because they have the cutest faces. Thank gosh I didn't, because I had a 10-gallon tank and that would have been a nightmare. So these guys get huge, they need massive aquariums. Pretty much half of the fish keepers that I've talked to, their first experience is with an Oscar that gets too big, and you know the story. So these guys are a big no-no as well. I mean, if you're gonna be prepared to take care of these guys in a big tank as a beginner, go for it. They can be quite easy to take care of, but if you're gonna just buy them and try and put them in a 10-gallon tank, please don't even bother, because they just get way too big and you're gonna have a big problem on your hands quick. So stay away from Oscars. And number 3 on my list is gonna be a fish that's gonna give a lot of people like the wrong idea. The reason I put these guys here is for a specific, for specific cautionaries. And this is going to be guppies. So I'm just talking about your normal guppies, not your endlers and stuff like that. Your normal guppies. These guys, yes, they're a good beginner fish. They can be. But the only reason I put them here is because they come in with so many problems. Half the time when I buy guppies, they come in with worms or a parasite that people don't understand how to fix, and they end up just dying. They think it's their fault. Normally it's the importer's fault and the aquarium store's fault for not quarantining them properly. But guppies, you look at the colors of them, they're so inbred, and over years and years and years of inbreeding, they've become a little bit weaker just genetically. So that can cause a lot of problems, and they can be a little bit finicky to take care of. Now, yes, if you guys know what you're doing with guppies, you know how to worm them, you know how to feed them properly, you get them from a reliable source, they can be a great beginner fish. It's just that they can come in with so many problems that I would think that they are a big no-no. Well, not a big no-no, a small no-no for a lot of beginner people out there, because they're gonna get discouraged, they're gonna buy guppies, they're gonna get skinny, they'll die, which is very sad for the fish, but it's also sad because that person thinks they're doing stuff wrong, and then they leave the hobby or something like that. So I really don't want that stuff happening. It's the same for neon tetras and things like that. They come in, all these mass-produced fish, they come in with disease and problems, and yeah, it's just not good. So guppies are number 3. They can be a great beginner fish, but you just got to be aware of the risks. And number 2 on my list might seem very obvious, and this is going to be large plecos. So this can be like your sailfin plecos, just like your common plecos, gold spot plecos. Not great beginner fish. In fact, a lot of plecos I'd say are intermediate fish just because of the cost of them. So a lot of plecos can cost quite a bit because they are a little bit rarer to find, and well, that's just for some of them. But especially big plecos, for the same reasons as your bala sharks and your Oscars, they just get really big. And a lot of people don't know what they're getting themselves into when they're really small and cute in the fish store. You gotta stay away from it, be careful. Don't buy a common pleco. I'm gonna flash up 2 photos of a common pleco and a bristlenose pleco. I would highly recommend getting a bristlenose pleco as a beginner, but I would not recommend getting a common pleco or one of your larger plecos at all, because they just get so big, they need to be in a huge aquarium, and they're gonna cause you problems. Now, yes, if you're gonna have them in a huge aquarium, go for it, because then that's gonna be the proper environment. But if you're gonna have them in a small 10 or 20 gallon, it's not gonna work. And then number 1 on my list is gonna be goldfish. So goldfish are like one of the most commonly bought fish out there. In fact, they're probably, I think probably the most commonly bought, I don't know. These guys, the reason I say number 1 worst beginner fish is just because of the size they get to and the amount of waste they produce. So these guys are a cold water fish, which is great because you don't need a heater or anything like that. That's part of the reason a lot of people are enticed to them. Another thing too is just they're a trend. Like a lot of people always just consider goldfish to be a fish that you keep, one of your first fish. But these guys are, in my opinion, aren't a great beginner fish. People don't understand what they're getting themselves into. These guys should be at least kept in like a 4-foot tank, I'd say, or even bigger if you could, because they get massive, some of these guys. The other thing too is because they can't be kept in a planted aquarium, they need to be kept in a tank with like, you know, artificial plants and things like that, which isn't bad, but they produce so much waste because they're constantly eating, and all that waste is just going to build up, and there's not going to be any plants and things like that to, you know, take some of those nitrates and ammonia and things like that out of the water, and they can just be really hard to take care of for that reason. So in the right aquarium, they can be a great beginner fish because they can be easy to take care of, but these guys are just not a great beginner fish in my opinion. If you want to see some of the best beginner fish, there's going to be a link up above where I've got like 10 of the easiest beginner fish to take care of, and that's a list that I would go and have a look at. But for all these reasons that I've just explained, the size, you know, the compatibility issues, aggression issues, if I was going to buy fish for the first time, I'd try and stay away from all of these guys just until I was ready, or if I'd done enough research to take care of them. So that's the list. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.